In the heart of late 14th century England, nestled among mist-laced hills and ancient oaks, stood Blackmere Castle, a fortress of grey stone and iron will. Within its high walls lived Clara, the only daughter of Duke Alastair of Blackmere. At 20, she was known not only for her noble blood but for her unyielding spirit and vivid sense of self. While court ladies draped themselves in deep blues and somber greys, Clara wore a soft yellow blouse with lace-trimmed cuffs and a long yellow skirt that swayed like autumn wheat with every step. To her, yellow was not just a color, it was a quiet rebellion, a declaration that she would not be swallowed by the rigid shadows of courtly expectation. Her father, a man hardened by decades of war and diplomacy, had long planned her future, a marriage to Lord Everard of Wexford, a widower twice her age but rich in land and loyalty to the crown. The alliance would secure Blackmere's borders and elevate the Duke's standing at court. But Clara had other dreams. She had spent hours in the castle library, speaking in hushed tones with Elias, the young scribe whose hands were ink-stained but whose mind sparkled with poetry. When the Duke announced the betrothal at the midsummer feast, Clara did not curtsy in acceptance. Instead she stood tall and said, "I will not wed a man I do not love, nor be traded like a prize heifer." The hall fell silent.
The Duchess face d'Arkend like storm clouds over the moor.
For 2 days after the feast, Clara refused to attend court functions. She hid the marriage contract in the hollow of an old yew tree and met Elias in the herb garden, where they spoke of Chaucer and constellations. When summoned before her father, she offered no apology, only defiance. "You shame this house," the Duke thundered, his voice echoing off the stone walls of the solar. "You shame me," but the Duke was a man of tradition, not brutality. He would not beat his daughter, such marks would ruin her value in marriage. Nor would he lock her away indefinitely, the betrothal ceremony was in a fortnight. He needed her humbled, not broken. After consulting with Mistress Alira, the castle's senior governess and keeper of noble discipline, he chose a punishment as old as the Norman conquest, tickling. Not cruel, not bloody, but deeply intimate, stripping away control and pride without leaving a bruise. That evening, 2 maidservants came to Clara's chamber. "The Duke commands your presence in the lower vault," one said, avoiding her eyes. Clara's heart pounded, but she lifted her chin and followed, her yellow skirt whispering against the stone stairs. The dungeon was colder than she expected, damp air clinging to her skin, torchlight flickering on iron rings and wooden benches. In the center stood a low stool. Mistress Alira, tall and severe in her grey wool gown, gestured for Clara to sit. Her hands were clean, nails neatly trimmed, tools of precision, not violence. "Place your wrists here," Alira said gently but firmly. Leather straps secured Clara's arms to the stool's arms, not tight enough to hurt, but enough to hold her still. Her yellow blouse remained buttoned to the throat, her long skirt pooled around her ankles. Modesty was preserved. Humiliation was the point. Then Alira's fingers found Clara's sides, just beneath her arms, where the fabric of her blouse was softest. Clara gasped. A nervous laugh escaped her lips. "Please," but Alira did not stop. Her fingers danced, light, relentless, knowing. Clara twisted, but the straps held. Laughter bubbled up uncontrollably, high and breathless. "No? Ah. Stop. I can't." Tears pricked her eyes. Her ribs burned with the effort to breathe between giggles. She kicked her legs, but her yellow skirt only fluttered helplessly. The sound of her own laughter echoed off the stone walls, absurd and shameful. It wasn't pain, but it felt like surrender. After what felt like an eternity, Alira stepped back. Clara slumped forward, panting, cheeks wet, chest heaving. Her yellow clothes were rumpled, her hair loose. She had never felt so exposed. Back in her chamber, Clara sat by the fire, wrapped in a woolen shawl. She traced the place on her side where Alira's fingers had lingered. She didn't regret loving Elias, but she regretted shouting her defiance in the great hall, where every noble ear had turned against her father. She had thought herself brave, but true courage, she now saw, might lie in choosing when to speak, not just what to say. Her rebellion had not freed her, it had only tightened the chains. And worse, Elias had been sent away that morning, reassigned to a distant abbey. Her defiance had cost him too. On the day of the betrothal, Clara wore a gown of cream silk edged in gold, proper, elegant, expected. But beneath it, unseen by all, she kept her yellow blouse. As she stood beside Lord Everard in the chapel, she met his eyes. To her surprise, he gave a small, respectful nod. Later he spoke quietly, "I do not expect your heart today, my lady. Only your hand. Perhaps in time, the rest may follow." That evening, Clara walked alone through the castle gardens. The sun dipped behind the towers, casting long shadows. A breeze lifted the hem of her skirt, revealing a flash of yellow beneath. She was not the girl who had laughed in the library anymore. But she was not broken, either. She was something new, tempered, watchful, and still quietly herself. And in the silence of the English dusk, that was enough.